So there you go. Those are some of the stories making headlines in the world of business at this time, of course, here in Nigeria. Let's get into our first conversation. The uncertainty of Nigeria's economy was laid bare last week when the federal government unveiled highlights of the 2023 national budget featuring a deficit of 11.3 trillion naira and implying a rise in the national debt to a staggering 54 trillion naira. Now, defending the 2023-2025 medium-term expenditure framework details before the House of Representatives Finance Committee, the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, noted that the proposed 19.76 trillion naira spending plan is 15.37% higher than its years and will entail borrowings of 54% higher if petrol subsidies are sustained beyond the half year to cover the entire fiscal cycle. To discuss this development, I'm being joined live from our Abuja studios. It's Professor of Accounting from the Nile University of Nigeria, Professor Ofili Ugudioha. He joins me live. Well, Prof, good to see you at this time. I wonder perhaps when you take a look at this 2023 budget, what are your fears? What are your concerns?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Professor Ofili, we can hear you. I hope you heard my question. I said when you take a look at the 2023 budget, what exactly would you describe as your fears and perhaps your major concerns and worries?
I am happy to be with you again on this very critical and topical issue in the lives of Nigeria. What we are discussing is the budget of the Federal Republic of Nigeria for the year 2023. Before I explain the impact that this budget is likely to have, it is necessary to now tell Nigerians what budget is all about. Budget in itself is the quantitative plan of action domiciliated in monetary terms. The budget of Nigeria for the year 2023 is a quantitative or plan of government which they plan to do within the fiscal year of 2023. That budget is projected at 19.7 trillion. And the budget has any government budget should have a recurrent part of the budget and the capital part of the budget. And the budget is meant to generate and reactivate economic activities that will be rendered within that fiscal year. This is why the budget has both recurrent and capital. The recurrent expenses is the cost of administration and the nation. And such services include the road, the power, the electricity, the aviation, the security infrastructure, and all other capital items that touch the lives of the populace. In that very year, the government is telling us that there will be no recurrent expenses, or there is likely not to be recurrent expenses for that year. No, sorry, that in that year there will be no capital expenses, or there may not be capital aspect of that budget. That is a disaster to the nation, because it's the capital element of the budget that touches the masses. And the masses elect you or appoint you through the government in power to represent them, so that economic activities will touch their lives. Economic and social activities will touch their lives. Then, why is government saying that they may not have enough for capital expenses? The reason is because the debt will consume most of the items that will be used for capital expenses. Then, but I feel that this is not a good way of governing a nation. This budget simply means that we are earning around 8 trillion, or we are going to earn around 8 trillion for the fiscal year. Having understood that budget is made up of revenue and expenditure, our government is telling us that our revenue projection for that year will be 8.3 trillion. But they are telling us also that they are going to spend 19.4. And they also said that in order to make that budget 19.7, that they were going to borrow 11 trillion. But the sad aspect of it is that after borrowing 11 trillion or 11.3 trillion, that none of these things is going for any capital expenditure. And having said earlier that capital expenditure is the only thing that touches the masses and touches the entire Nigerians, they say it is likely to be zero in that budget.
All right, Prof.
Then we come down to what consumes us. What consumes us mostly is the debt. I do not agree that it's the fuel subsidy that consumes us, because the fuel subsidy in itself is seemingly a scam. If you ask even a driver in the park, he will tell you it's a scam. If you ask a professional, he will tell you it's a scam. Because even the custom and immigration have doubted the possibility of the number of trucks which the NNPC say is going for, what do you call it, that is targeted for subsidy and is leaving the country to the offshore. They doubt it. And they are still government in power. So how are we going to trust the subsidy side? At least we can trust the debt, because the debt is there. But if you are coming to the side of the debt, you have seen that the government has borrowed over 40 trillion. And borrowing over 40 trillion means that you have borrowed what you cannot pay, what the next government cannot pay, what the next and the next government cannot pay. So where do we go from here? Nigeria is like a man who is earning 8 billion naira or 8 million naira a year. And this man is spending 19.7 million naira a year. How is it possible? It's not possible to spend. It's not possible to spend more than 2 times what you can earn. So this type of person is going into a serious problem of his life. Within 2 years, he will throw himself into bankruptcy. And this is why you see people having problem of bankruptcy, some of them taking poison to die. If Nigeria as a nation is a human being, it is enough for Nigerians to take poison and die so that they don't exist again. But it's a nation. Then you come to the other side of the budget, which is the oil production. The oil production is targeted to be at 1.69 for the next 1 year. This year, you are producing 1.18 or maximum 1.2. That is 1.18 barrel per day. So how can you jump from 1.18 to 1.69 by just next year? Considering the fact that since this government came into power, they never met any production target. I also agree that previous administrations do not meet their production target. If you don't meet your production target for the last 3 years, why do you continue projecting higher and higher that you cannot meet? But I know the reason. The reason is that budget figure in Nigeria means nothing to anybody. If it's a country where the budget figure means something, that the government can be held accountable for what they budgeted for a particular fiscal year, that they have been able to achieve it, the people they are administering will say thank you. That they have not been able to achieve it, the people they are administering will come out and say, no, we don't need you again. So is because nobody talks. Budget in Nigeria is just to put down money, and by the end of the year, the money is collected without looking at activities those budget items are supposed to achieve. And this is why they can put up any figure and say this is your budget. And I said it, that the problem of Nigerian budgeting system is that they don't have capable hands. If you check those who are piloting our budget, most of them are not accountants. They are not even economists.
Professor Ofili.
Maybe they will put one economist there, but the budget is not just economic. Economic is required there. The forecast of financial projection is done by accountants. But they can bring anybody into budget office and now start putting down any figure to us without harmonizing it the way financial plan and financial projection
Professor Ofili, I mean, well, you're indeed making some
ordinarily, if there's a budget variation
just a moment,
of more than 5 to 10%, that budget is bad.
Because Professor Ofili, because
but in Nigeria you can have a variation of
many questions as fast as we can, so that we can touch other areas of the budget. But you have made really very strong and weighty allegations here around issues around subsidy, for instance, because Madam Minister, Mrs. Zainab Ahmed, painted two scenarios when it has to do with issues around the budget. One of the scenarios is the fact that the country would perhaps need to end issues around subsidy next year or end it mid-next year, somewhere around June. So I wonder which side of the divide perhaps you belong to. Do you think we should put an end to subsidy at the end of next year or during or mid next year, somewhere around June?
Yeah. Okay. If they can end subsidy and subsidy solves Nigerian problem, I don't have any doubt about it. At least the corruption allegation on subsidy will go. At least we stand on the right footing. That is fine. I don't have any problem with that. And any good financial analyst will not have problem with that, because even though the subsidy is good to the generality of Nigerians, but the corruption surrounding the subsidy will make it not good again for Nigerians. Because a few of them are benefiting from there, why the masses that we say that they are the people benefiting from the subsidy are no longer benefiting. Because Nigerians are suffering terribly now. So what else will happen to Nigeria more than what is happening now? If they want to remove subsidy and end corruption there, it is fine.
But can I stay with you and just ask you perhaps what exactly the possible consequences would be if the subsidy removal next year, mid next year, or at the end of next year? I mean, recently, I think it was Mele Kyari, the group manager, who had mentioned that, look, Nigerians may have to buy a liter of fuel as much as 400 naira per liter.
Yeah, Shehu, let me tell you, if the Nigerians will buy that and save 5 to 6 trillion, which is being alleged as the money being spent in subsidy, it will be okay, provided they use that, because Nigerians will hold them accountable for that 6 trillion which they say they are spending on subsidy, which means if the subsidy has ended, that 6 trillion will be available for Nigerian utilization. So, but my dear country is a place where nobody is held accountable from what he says.
All right.
So I've seen the finance minister's analysis. I agree. 6 trillion in a year is enough to provide infrastructure for the country. But let them bear in mind that by the end, if they end that subsidy next year, we shall see that 6 trillion saved for Nigerians' utilization.
Well, Professor Ofili, I mean, these are indeed fascinating insights. I wish we had the time to, dissect this the more. But of course, we'll keep our fingers crossed, and then of course we'll see how we can engage you subsequently on Business Nigeria. But I'd like to thank you most kindly for speaking with us, Professor Ofili Ugudioha. He's the Professor of Accounting from the Nile University in the nation's capital, Abuja. Thank you for speaking to us here on Business Nigeria.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.